years.
Okay. All right. Wow. Jeez.
It's a new project. They say idea, but I hope they all.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
So we're live. Hi everyone. My name is Sheila Donahue, and I'm founder of Vero. We go around the world seeking out small production, sustainably made wines and olive oils, and we sell them to businesses and consumers across the U.S. Our website is verovinogusto.com, and so welcome everyone. I'm glad that you're showing your videos. Hey Matt.
Hi Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
So I don't know. I don't see everyone on the videos just because my screen is like full of all this stuff. But anyway, I'm really excited about this evening's virtual tasting. And today we have with us Moises Casas, who's the winemaker, owner, and founder of Eche Vinum in Spain, and he's with Elena Garcia. And then we also have Yannick Benjamin, who's a sommelier based in New York. I know him from a wine event in November 2019, and we saw each other January last year, right before everything happened. But I'm glad that really excited that he's going to be moderating and today's tasting Moises's wines. And today also is a fundraiser. It's for a charity that Yannick co-founded called Wine on Wheels. So the fundraiser is for those who purchase the Eche Vinum Wine on Wheels fundraising set on our website, verovinogusto.com. I know Matt and Pepe have Moises's wine. So, and I think Kathy is also, I saw you on the list. There are people participating. So we have a couple of the participants also with the wines, and we're just really glad to have you. So what I'd like to do is just to have Moises, Elena, and Yannick to just introduce yourselves. You want to start, Elena?
Sure. So my position is that I'm the supportive girlfriend, basically, in this whole thing that he started a few years ago. So first of all, thank you all for being here today. Good evening to those in Europe, like in Italy, and good morning for the rest. So we are very excited. This is the first time we are presenting Moises wines in the US, thanks to Sheila and the opportunity she gave us, because when you are such a small producer and you look to the United States, as big as it is as a market, it's wow. You're like, you don't know where to start. So to have someone focusing on small projects, very true to the terroir, to the land, to the history of the area, it makes me happy, and it makes me feel that we might have a chance, an opportunity to present where we are doing, even if we are not able to travel. And thanks to the new technology and the internet and Zoom that has become part of our daily lives, right? We are every day doing Zoom tastings, cooking sessions. I'm doing yoga on Zoom. It's like everything is possible right now thanks to internet, even if we are not able to really move a lot. So just thank you. And basically I'm here to translate if needed, but it's his project.
And
Ah.
does Moises want to say a couple? I know he knows some words in English. So.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Yannick. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you for everyone. My name is Moises Casas. And today I'm going to present I'm going to present you our wonderful Ethereum project. When I was young, my life has been directly linked to viticulture. Since my whole family has dedicated itself to the cultivation of the vine for generations. I come from a small town with 5,000 inhabitants called Miguel Esteban in the center of Spain, in the Toledo state. 80% of the economy is based on agriculture, mainly the vineyard, olive tree, and cereal, something that the Romans already did in our area for more than 2,000 years.
At least.
2,000 years. My family's viticultural philosophy has always been based on making grapes and then taking them to the village cooperative and using them for bulk wine. It is at this moment when, by chance, at the 19 years old, my mother tells me about enology course and I decide to do it. Afterwards, I studied viticulture and enology and started working as a winemaker for a winery that produced 2 million kilos per
20 million.
20 million kilos in bulk every year. I was frustrated to see how high quality wines and grapes were destined for bulk wine and not marketed. From here on, my life changed completely, and I began to understand that the all effort and dedication of my family caring for all vineyards to take their grapes to a big cooperative, no sense. And I decided, after talking with my family, with 29 years old, to create my own project. Until today, when only a few wineries, such as Ecevinum, have tried to put the name of Castilla-La Mancha at the top, trying to make wines of an excellent quality to demonstrate to the entire region that it's possible with effort, knowledge, good vineyards, marketing and commercialization to be at the top of the Spanish viticulture. I create Ecevinum project to honor to my great grandparents, and of course my since thanks to our and viticulture, right? Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was hearing something
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
I create Ecevinum project. I started to honor to my great parents, my great parents, my parents. Since thanks to our vineyards and viticulture, we have been able to have a good education. The vineyards are is very important for me and my family.
Actually, if you visit his hometown during harvest, I always said the same thing, but it's true. It's like wartime. There is only old people and children.
Yeah.
Every single person is helping harvesting,
Yeah.
Wow.
included me, which I don't really enjoy that part of the process. I enjoy much more drinking the wine that he's producing. But it is true when you visit the area where we are from, it's 90% it's we call it the vineyards ocean. There is all you can see, and you can drive for more than 6 hours, and everything all the time is a flat surface with vineyards, which is really beautiful. But then you're thinking, oh, gosh, we need to harvest all this. So it's kind of yeah, the end of the summer is sad because you know you're going to start harvesting very soon.
Okay, well, let's turn it over briefly to Yannick to introduce himself because he didn't have a chance to.
Yeah, well, thank you for putting this on, Sheila. It's a pleasure to be on. And I met Elena and Moise a few weeks ago just to put a face behind the label. And there's nothing better than drinking a glass of wine and to know that the people who are making the wine are good human beings and are passionate about what they're doing. And I'm glad that Sheila put me onto them. I was not familiar with them. And I think what they're doing is really great. I think all of us that are on this panel or part of this take a deep interest in preserving the environment. And it's great that you have some, both of them that are deeply passionate about farming practices and looking for the future, not for themselves, but being able to pass over their land onto other people. I think that's really important. I always, when you visit a lot of these small producers, whether it's in Spain, Italy, California, Australia, and especially when they're family owned, the one thing they always will tell you is that I want my kids to be able to play in the vineyards. I don't want to have to worry about them getting sick because there's fertilizers or chemicals that shouldn't be sprayed on there. So I think what they're doing is really wonderful work. I think it's great, and I think they have a very unique terroir there in La Mancha. I mean, like Yelena said, it's flat, but it's quite high in altitude, and they're right dead center in the heart of Spain. And they do get this incredibly diurnal shift of hot and cold. So even though it does get really hot during the day, you get cooler nights, so it retains the acidity. And actually, it's one part of Spain that I have not been to. I've been mostly in the north, from all over Galicia and Riviera Sacra and Bierzo. And I always kind of imagine Castilla-La Mancha, as far as the landscape, probably being similar a little bit to um, Bierzo, where you've got a lot of these older vines that are they're standing on their own. Now, I know Bierzo is mostly Mencia country, but it just kind of reminds me of that, based on the images. But the next time I do go to Spain, I will visit. Secondly, I just want to thank everybody to participate. It's great to have you all. Sheila and Moise and Elena have been very generous, and proceeds of this goes to Wheeling Forward. We're a 501c3, which is a nonprofit, and we help other people with disabilities, primarily those that are from lower income backgrounds, and we help them provide them with resources like a wheelchair and anything else they may need that would improve their quality of life. Unfortunately, this last year and a half has been very challenging because we're an organization that does a lot of wine events and wine dinners. We haven't been able to have a lot of people to raise money, and we've been doing things like this, like Zoom. But of course, I have to be honest with you. Nothing can ever replace the effect of having the ambiance and the energy of everyone under the same roof. I think Elena could probably say that. Great to do yoga on Zoom, but it's always nice to be around other people. You can't replicate that, but this is great still, no matter what. I mean, this is the way it is. And I think there's a lot of advantages, and I think this will be part of our life. But in any case, thank you for your support. Sheila, thank you for bringing awareness to the work that we do. And Elena and Moise, thank you so much for being part of this. It really means a lot.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Yannick.
much.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess, before we go any further, I mean, I want to talk to you guys, and probably if you can give us an idea. I mean, you did a little bit. What's the landscape? Like when people drive into La Mancha, what should they expect? I mean, what soil are they seeing? Is it, is it mostly flatland, or are there vines planted on hillside? And over here you can see the trunks are like trees. They're so thick. It's amazing. Can you maybe give us a little description? Yeah.
That tree that you see in the picture right now is the one on the label.
Okay, got it. Yeah, okay.
That's the one on the label. Those are really old trees that we have, and you can find them from time to time. You have to think La Mancha is a very dry area.
Yes.
So we don't have a lot of water.
Right.
which means we don't have a lot of trees neither.
Right.
So the ones we have, we try to keep them, even if it makes a little bit harder to work the vineyards, because when you have the
Sure.
tractor, you have to take care of the tree because it's pretty much in the middle. They
Yeah.
just grow.
Y
So
se ponían también para dar sombra porque no había resguardo también los árboles.
yeah, and they were also used as a way to provide a little bit of shadow.
Yes.
You have to think it's really, really hot during the harvest time in here.
Sure.
And that's why in his case, he's mostly doing night harvest.
Right. Night harvest, absolutely. And so as far as you're talking about doing night harvest, how does that all work? Are you doing a lot of harvest by hand? Are you using some machine? Is it a hybrid of both, or is it all purely manual harvesting?
Only harvest by hand is very important for us.
And it's family hand harvest. So it's
Yeah.
pretty much the whole family helping. Just at the end, it's a family project. And
Yes.
as he said, the economy of the region is pretty much, they pick up the grapes and take them to the cooperative.
Right.
And thanks to that cooperative, every single person in town is doing his life, because that's the only way. And
Sure.
and it was really, really difficult to find small projects like Moises is doing, because La Mancha has always been known for a bulk region.
Yeah. Right.
We
Right.
produce, now is Chardonnay, the first most planted grape in the world, but Chardonnay is planted everywhere.
Sure.
But not even 10 years ago, the most planted grape was Airén, and is only produced in La Mancha. So imagine the volumes and the capacity of the region.
Right.
So when you start something that small, it was even really hard for him to find tanks to ferment the wines,
Right.
because
Right.
everything is for millions of liters. So when you said, no, I'm only need like 10,000 liters, 5,000 liters, people look at you like, what?
Right.
Like bring that from, I mean, we don't produce that. It was really, really hard. It was a challenge to start this project.
I can only imagine. And you were just talking about the amount of stress the vines go under, right? Because it doesn't rain that much. It's a very dry region. So do you do any irrigation, or is it just dry farming?
No irrigation. Only es, ¿cómo se dice? Estricto secano.
Dry farming.
Dry farming, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, great, wow. So those roots are really digging in. They're really working to find that water table, and at the same time, they're getting nutrients, right? They're getting a lot of these, deposits that really kind of gives it the complexity and depth that you guys are probably looking for as far as the finished product goes. Would you say, I mean, you touched on it, but what are some of what are the greatest things about working in La Mancha? And then what are some of the challenges that you face as a winemaker? I guess, you kind of touched on the challenges as being a small producer, kind of getting out of that mold of just harvesting your grapes and selling them to the cooperative and getting a paycheck. But you and Moise said, no, we're going to do our own thing, which must have been really challenging. And I guess there's not a lot of other smaller producers that you can like have a community with and ask advice from and go back and forth. That must be the challenge. But what are some of the great things? What are some of the benefits? What makes La Mancha so unique compared to other regions in Spain?
A lot of good things.
Yeah, we want to hear them.
A lot of good things, for sure. Do you want to explain that? ¿Por qué La Mancha es tan especial para hacer vinos?
Pues porque, bueno, te lo diría bueno, lo puedo decir en inglés. Un segundo. Me he quedado bloqueado ahora mismo.
No. Empiezo yo. I will say one of the first and most important things, it's the climate. I know that, and it is important, and it's very important for us because we work organic.
Yeah.
And the big problem to work organically is the humidity, because humidity brings illness to the vineyards.
Yes.
And when you're working organic, you cannot treat with any chemical products. So you really need to have a very clean area and a very good for the vines area
Yes.
to work on an easy way organically. So for us, it wasn't really very hard to take that decision. First, we are very green people. This is our kind of the type of life. We love to go and use the bike instead of cars. We
Agreed.
try to walk as much as possible, even if we live in Toledo, which means summertime, we are over 100 Fahrenheit for sure.
Yeah.
No air conditioning at home.
Oh
We
my
use
God.
swimming pool.
Oh my God.
I know that. I wanted to mention that because for me in the US, I'm always almost dying because it's super cold everywhere I go because the air conditioning. You love air conditioning, and Europeans, we are all like,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't use it that much. And then
Every
and
time I go out to a restaurant in Europe, I always need like an ice cube because my water is always too warm. And I don't like cold water. But I'm like, come on, a little
a
colder.
little bit, right? Yeah, it's the opposite for me. It's like, can I have it without?
Yeah.
Like I'm cold enough. Just if I touch it with my hands, it would be cold enough. I swear. Just don't add anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in this case, as he told Miguel Esteban, is a very small town, very rural. We don't have any big companies next to us. It's rural, very rural. And there is a very unique thing is that we have a protected area for birds in town, which is called Los Charcones.
Mhm.
And so those are actually dirty waters like coming from the
Fecal water.
yeah, from the restrooms from the whole village. And for some reason, ducks loved it. And now is one of the biggest flamingo areas in the center of Spain. I don't know if you can believe that. We have a lot of ducks and a lot of flamingos. It's pretty peculiar. It was not a spot for them to stop on their way to Africa, but now they are stopping there, and they spend the spring in
winter season. Yeah.
and the winter season in his town. So it is mandatory per law. We are not able to use chemical products next to that area. And
Oh,
then
wow.
we decided to go like, let's do it. Let's go for organic wines. And it was a pretty easy decision for us because it's like, we are not going to ruin all this.
Sure.
And it's true that La Mancha is a very good area to produce organic wines because it's so dry
Yes.
that the possibilities to have illness in the vineyards are really, really small.
Well, I would say probably your risk of disease pressure is significantly less than someone trying to grow grapes by the Atlantic, right?
Oh yeah.
Guys like in Galicia where they've got to deal with powdery mildew and a lot of these fungal diseases.
Correct.
They're just out of control and it's wet and they don't get those winds that you might need to really dry it off. So it certainly ideal climate. I mean, that's why like places like the south of France is so ideal. Certainly drier, great geological diversity, and these really strong winds. Maybe we'll keep on talking, but maybe we can talk about the first wine, perhaps, if that's okay with you. And you could tell us a little bit about Verdejo and its history in La Mancha, because most people who love wine, right? When we talk about Verdejo, a lot of people associate it with Rieta, right? Rieta. And here you're doing some delicious Verdejo. And you're also making another Verdejo that's been aged in oak. And perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the style that you guys are trying to achieve with with Verdejo. And what makes it different also from Rieta?
¿Haces tú?
Empieza tú y le digo porque me he quedado atrás.
So the most famous verdejo in Spain comes from north of Spain, Rueda area. It is an area that is next to Ribera del Duero. So those are two important areas for Spanish wines. And it's funny because Rueda is all about white, basically, and Ribera is pretty much all about red, even Tempranillo, pretty much.
Yes.
So because of the Spain, it's divided in two high plateaus. One is La Mancha, then you have Madrid in the middle with the mountains,
Yeah.
and then you have Castilla y León, which is the region for Rueda and Ribera del Duero. Both are high plateaus. It's just that we are southern in Spain than Rueda.
700 meters, 730.
Yeah, the whole plateau is around 700 meters in La Mancha region.
Wow.
So we knew, and if you taste the first vintage that Moises did for Verdejo, you don't really think about it. You just produce the wine, and then we realize we cannot compare to Rueda. We don't have that acidity. We don't have that amount of rain. So we needed to change our perception on how Verdejo should be done in the area. So we decided to just do a more gastronomic wines. Normally, when you have a high acidity, it's very refreshing. It's very nice to drink it like by the glass. When it's really hot, you sit outside in the patio, right? You open the bottle and it's crispy and the acidity. But for me, when the acidity is too high, it's also hard to pair. The acidity will take your mouth. So we decided to go just the other side, do a gastronomic wine. And for that, what we do basically is that we keep the wine in contact with the skins.
4 months in lease, during 4 months in lease with weekly batonnage.
Yeah. So you mean the lees, like after the fermentation is done, the yeast that stays there, you stir the lees, the yeast with the actual juice to give it more creaminess, more roundness. And this is something that's practiced quite a bit in Burgundy. So exactly what you're saying, Elena, you're trying to achieve a wine that's probably less that you would kind of sip on the patio, but more something that you would pair with a food. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. So of course, and there's a huge difference also in the aromas you get, because that lack of cold and rain compared to Rueda. So all the verdejos from Rueda are very exotic in the nose. They are really, but actually verdejo in Spanish means green. It comes from green. So the notes should be more into the citric notes. And here, I really think you got a lot of citric notes in this wine.
I definitely agree with you with, you know, a lot of the I've actually visited that region, and a lot of the verdejos that I've had from Rieta, they definitely kind of have a Sauvignon Blanc kind of feel to it. Now, those are the ones that are fermented in stainless steel, where they feel oak, right? And then you've got some other verdejos that something like yours that we're tasting, where it has a little bit roundness. There's still freshness. There's still a lot of like intensity to it, a lot of energy. I think I really do think that. But there is that kind of roundness to it that I find, especially with your style. You can see the batonnage that kicks into it. What about oak and is it? I don't know, what's your regiment? What happens there with the vinification with this particular wine?
Que si hay algún tipo de barrica o no.
No, este no. Luego tengo otro verdejo que
Lo
es.
digo yo en español.
Yeah.
En inglés.
In this wine, no contact in oak. Only use batonnage. I have another verdejo with is more in oaks, but it's 2 different wines.
Just to give everyone perhaps a perspective, with the wine that we're trying right now and your other wine that I think you have that ages 6 months in oak, is that correct? Stylistically, what separates them when someone's smelling and tasting them? What makes them different?
Everything. everything.
Salty notes, vanilla notes, lactical notes.
Yeah, the other Verdejo,
Yes,
and I love
Chocolate
that
notes.
we only have because we do a selection of a small parcel for that Verdejo.
only one barrique.
So we only do one barrique,
Oh, wow, one barrique, huh?
and I drink half of
Only
it. So I
three
just
hundred
have,
Right, exactly.
I have to tell it, it's
It's an
an
experiment.
first time it was an experiment.
Yeah.
That's right. But
good.
now it's a very serious wine. It's completely opposite. I think this Verdejo, it's what it is called in Spain, joven. It's a
Mhm.
young wine. It's a wine to enjoy, to sit, to just. I like to call it, and I don't think it's a negative thing. It's an everyday wine. It's wine that you get home, open the bottle, and drink the whole bottle
With family and friends every day.
to enjoy, right? To
Yeah.
speak with people. While the other Verdejo, it's more serious. You want to think that you're pairing with that. You're maybe cooking something a little bit more special. And you get all the complexity that the oak provide to the wine.
Is similar a
Someone is
Chardonnay.
asking what would pair with this wine, and also let's say what would be a some like a local dish. They'd like to know more about the local cuisine.
You know, like what's a cuisine, what's a dish or ingredients that you like to pair with this wine? Ideally, if you could tell us things that are local to you guys in La Mancha.
Algo local de La Mancha con lo que maridarías esto.
Rice.
Yeah.
Maybe salads, medium cheese.
You have to think we come from Manchego cheese is also from La Mancha.
Right, right.
So Manchego cheese and for example, this wine, and you have the different kinds of cheese that are a little bit younger or that has been aging for some time. It's a really good pairing.
I think I think it would be a wonderful pairing. You know, definitely. I know Manchego's a sheep base, but you know, even some goat cheese, fresh
yeah.
goat cheese, something fresh. And I think the wine speaks for itself. I don't think you need anything, you know, crazy as far as preparation. Simple, good, fresh ingredients, and I think you get something that complements each other. And certainly, with some good goat cheese or some Manchego or sheep-based cheese, I think. You know, even some simple crudité salads and all that kind of stuff. You don't need, but it is very refreshing. It has a lot of depth. The other Verdejo that you make, does that wine have potential to age a little bit because of the way you make it and all that?
Yeah. The other Verdejo is vintage 2016.
Great. Wow. That's amazing.
So yeah. And I would like to open much more bottles than the ones we open, but as we only produce 250, I cannot be opening a bottle, but it has been a really nice way to open a bottle after a few months and see the evolution of the wine in the bottle. It's really, it's something that it's like you can see your baby growing.
Correct.
Elena, can you talk to, well, I can imagine, sure, you see that evolution. Or watching your dog grow, right? You got your dog at like this small, and now it's
he was just licking my hands while
I saw you guys.
Like, come on.
I saw it. Can you tell us, we're gonna go to wine number 2, but before we do so, can you tell us the soil that your Verdejo is grown on, and also the soil type that your Tempranillo is grown on?
El tipo de suelos de las
Los tipos de
viñedos.
suelos de los dos viños son arcillosos, calcáreos, son arcillosos.
So it's pretty much clay.
Muy pobres.
Clay?
They are very poor soils.
Yep.
In La Mancha, we have something that old people said, and is that the most you make them suffer, the best grapes they will give you. Talking about the vines. So it is always said that if the wine is really, really, if the soil is really, really poor, and it just need to have a capacity of keeping water a little bit to help the vines to go through the summer until harvest. Then it's very important to work with the pruning. and try to have this shadow through over the grapes to avoid the high exposure to sun. This is something also that I would like to mention. A lot of people sometimes are scared about the alcohol in Spanish wines in general. But we have a lot of sun. So the most sun you have, the highest the alcohol is going to be, because you have more sugar in the wine. But it's not new for Spanish people. I mean, every single winemaker, they have grown producing wines with high alcohol. So if you really need to look at the label, and a lot of times it's like people is surprised that, oh, already 14.5, 15, 15.5. I didn't realize that.
Sure.
You have to learn to work that way. And then of course, when you have such a small production as we do, and you don't have to look for workers for harvest because it's your family.
Yes.
Let's say beginning of August, he started going like a dog looking for traps, but it's just looking for the grapes, and the time they are ready, we just start harvesting. So it's true that we try to harvest always at night because of the temperature, and also a little bit earlier to try to avoid really high sugar content on the grapes.
Yeah, I mean, as far as what you were saying about alcohol, I mean, I would say that the majority of, wine producing regions that are producing red wines, they're all hitting well over 14.5 these days. I mean, even you go to Burgundy, Pinot Noir, Beaujolais, which were traditionally 12.5, 13%, they're all hitting above 14.5. And I think you're absolutely right. As far as the alcohol, everything has to be balanced. Does the acetic balance out with the alcohol? Does the fruit, does the oak, and all that. So if they all complement each other, you're not going to even notice the alcohol. You'll just notice the complexity and the balance of the wine. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Now that you're mentioning balance, I guess balance is one of the most important words speaking about wine. It is also very important to have balance in the vines.
Yes.
The right balance between the green parts, the grapes, the exposure to the sun, the water that you are given for those who have water to put on their vineyards. So balance, it's really important through the whole process.
And I think just to give people perspective, the amount of labor and work that you put into it must be tremendous, because here we're looking at this vine right here. It's standalone, it's not wired, it's not trellised, right? So usually when you have the vines trellised on wire, you're pruning and you're standing up. Here you've got to bend over, and it's probably not the easiest work.
It's miserable.
Yeah, bush vine. I'm sure your workers are probably like, oh my God, my back is killing me, my knees are killing me. So there is a lot of work that goes behind that. I'm curious, by the way, is there a difference when because I don't think I've ever done that. The actual grape itself that comes from 100-year-old vine, does it taste any different than a grape that comes from a 20-year-old vine, for example?
Sure. Que si las uvas de las cepas de 100 años saben distintas a las cepas de 20 años.
Absolutely different. Absolutely different. The small grapes are
more concentrated.
Flavors, aromas is different with young vines. Is very different.
I guess on the old vines, it's easier to get the right balance that we were talking before. Right. That's something his grandfather used to say, that old vines are like mothers.
Yes.
I mean, you have to look at them. They know how to behave. So it would be our babies are the vines. So you have done what it was good for them for 100 years, and now they know how to behave. They know what they need to do. So it's basically give them space and time. You have to think, if you can see this picture, And yeah, you see a yellow person behind. I think that's your brother, actually. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was
Yeah, I
there.
see that. Yeah.
You can see him
The
barely
picture is
because
mine.
he
Like,
is
wow.
harvesting. So as you can see, there are a lot of vines next to.
Esto es amaneciendo, esto son las 7 de la mañana.
Yeah, we were about to finish that day, was already almost 7, but they kill everything. Those are killers, because you have to think that the soils are so poor,
Yes.
and because of the age, when there is a vine that died because it's just too old,
Yes.
it's hard to put something else, because whatever nutrients in water that is in the soil, the big guys are gonna take it. So if you put a small new vine, it barely will survive. If you, it's really hard. It's really hard. So at some point you start seeing like one vine, huge vine in the middle, and then nothing around.
Right.
And then you have another one there, another one there, and it's like, okay.
They're very territorial.
Yeah, and I mean, they need to have powerful roots to get the water.
3 meters above. No?
3 meters? I didn't know that.
That's amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit about your this Tempranillo, the 2019, what we're tasting, and how this all came about, and you know, your farming and the vinification, and maybe even like what do you pair with this wine? You know.
Tempranillo is a variety because mature very early. Early in Tempranillo is called temprano. Temprano in Spanish is very early in English.
Yes, that's the etymology. Correct. Yes.
Yeah, it's ideal for making young wines and wines with oak. My intention in this wine is to capture the varietal typicality of this wonderful grape with a small step in oak, in order to have a wine that is easy to drink.
Right.
We produce 15,000 bottles per vintage from a single vineyard, only one vineyard.
Well, you don't have more vineyards. Just
Oh, yeah.
one for different years.
For Tempranillo, one for Verdejo. And I give in a little time in barrel to put in the wine more fruity, more elegance, round, balancey, represents the soul of our land.
So, I mean, I think, maybe to give people a reference point, Tempranillo is grown in a lot of different places in Spain. I think probably the 2 places that most people are familiar with are the wines of Rioja and then Ribera del Duero, right? They seem to be quite popular. What stylistically, what makes Tempranillo in La Mancha different? And already Rioja is very different from the wines from Ribera del Duero. But what sets you apart? What makes you guys different? Even like a place like Toro. Toro has it has Tempranillo there too, and it's much more of a bigger, full-bodied style. What's different about you guys?
I think that in Ribera del Duero and Rioja, the rainfall is very higher than Castilla-La Mancha. His acidity in these zones is higher than Castilla-La Mancha. And he needs to put her wines in barrel, because the higher acidity is not good for young wines.
Yes.
But in our area, the low acidity and the balance with the mature of the grapes, it's a good team. So it's important. I think that is the difference. And then the difference of the temperature between day and night. Because
Right.
I have a lot of hot, maybe 115 degrees Fahrenheit in a day, and night 15 degrees centigrade.
It's a huge difference.
Sure.
I would
It's a
say
difference.
when you look into wines from the north of Spain, to Tempranillo, and I love Tempranillo. I think it's like a Maleonic grape.
Yeah. Yes.
It is. It's a total surprise. From every region, it's going to be different. It has a different
Choice.
name for every region.
Yes.
Like my grandfather would never use Tempranillo. They will use Centibel, which is even harder to pronounce. So, but when you go and when you think about Rioja and Ribera del Duero, their main problem is to do Tempranillos that are everyday wines.
Right.
Wines that are easy to enjoy from day one. And it's not wrong. They are
No.
super cool areas, and they are the best areas to do Tempranillos that age in oak for a long time, and you can keep a bottle and keep it at home for 10 years, and it's okay. And every year is going to improve until a certain point. But they have a problem to have a young wine released from the same harvest that is actually drinking beautifully, because they are missing the sun that we have.
Yes.
And the structure of the grapes, they are thicker skin in Ribera del Duero or Rioja.
Definitely, of course.
They are very different. I mean, I think you can smell a wine, a Tempranillo, and you can definitely say if it is Rioja or Ribera. They have a very distinctive
Oh,
note.
very distinctive. Absolutely, for sure.
Very distinctive. In La Mancha, it's all about red fruit.
Yeah. Raspberry, violet, greens,
Yeah, as kids,
strawberry.
yeah, as children, there is
Yeah.
something that we eat that is sweet.
Hmm.
It smells Tempranillo. So
Flora,
I'm
fruity.
guessing they are treating, yeah, they are given that as
Hmm.
children. So we became familiar with the taste, and we can start drinking Tempranillo as long as we are 18 years old.
Yes, yes. I mean, I think what's really impressive is the incredible quality that goes behind these wines, the amount of work that you guys are doing farming, because it's not easy. And then the price point is like, it's very generous. It's incredibly generous. I mean, to go into a wine store and get a high quality white at $19, and to get a high quality red that is very versatile with a lot of different fruits for $21. I mean, it's a really, really great price point, and it's always a good feeling to also get a wine and know that it's sustainable. It's practicing sustainable farming methods. I think a lot of people, at least here I can speak in the United States, but I know also in Europe and other parts of the world, I think most people want to support wineries that are being environmentally friendly. Clearly, that's what you guys are doing. And you can even see the thoughtfulness with the white wine. You've got the Stelvin cap, the twist cap too, obviously, to keep the freshness, right? But also, that also adds to the whole packaging. And I think that's really great. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job.
It's everything is, I mean, the label were designed by our cousin. It's really, yeah, family. Yeah, if we need to label, we bring the family
Very
to.
thoughtful.
We are using a lot of free people helping us to do this. And I will let you know one perfect pair for this wine.
Yeah.
La Mancha, we have a traditional dish which is called pisto,
Pisto.
and it's like it's a sort of ratatouille.
Okay.
So it's tomato, onions, green paprika, red paprika, and zucchini,
Wow.
and olive oil, and you fry that, and then you fried a little bit of chicken and add it to that, and then you open the bottle of wine, and be sure to have some bread to dip it into the ratatouille, and in this is like a very grandmother thing that they will do. Every house has a different recipe, a secret recipe that goes from generation to generation. But if you let Sheila know, I will send you my secret.
Okay. Well, I really want to thank you both. I don't know if there's any questions from the attendees. If you want to ask them directly, you can either type them in or you can unmute yourself, and you know, Elena and Moise would love to answer your question. If not, you know, you can always email myself or Sheila. Yeah, did you have a question? Yes, please. Hey, Matt.
I was just curious if there are difference in the ages of the vines between the Verdeo and the Tempranillo grapes.
Las viñas de Verdejo y
What's the
Tempranillo
average
tienen
age
edades
of the
Sí. The age of Verdejo vineyards has 40 years.
48?
40
Oh, 40.
years.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. Wow.
And the Tempranillo is for the young wine 80 years, and for the Crianza wine 100 years.
Wow,
That's amazing.
fabulous. And this tastes so fresh.
Yeah, it's
And
unbelievable.
I understand that when that has been your family business for generations, and you see how your grapes with very low yields because of the age of the vines, and the hard work from the whole family going for a cooperative where they are just doing bulk one.
Sure.
It's, I mean, even for me, and I'm not a one maker, it makes me suffer. So I'm guessing in his case it's even worse. So, but it's you have to be very, I don't know, it's like a person with very clear ideas, because he was really young when he decided to start this project. He was barely 20.
How old? 20, you said?
He's 40 now.
Yeah, okay.
My
So-
project was in foreign with when I was 49 years.
49, no.
Sorry, 29 years.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
young. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
it's not easy to try to start your own thing, especially when you think about the history of La Mancha of winemaking and wine growing goes back on record. I think they have records of wine growing and winemaking to the 12th century, right? And so trying to break into that mold is certainly not an easy feat to do. So it's amazing.
It is. It was
Nice.
yeah, it was a challenge, but it's true that it's like a small community of producers, small producers from the area, so we all support each other. So it's basically like, okay, I'm going to buy bottles. Who needs bottles? And sadly, you have 10 people calling you like, okay, I need bottles. Me too. So you do a decent order for bottles or same thing for cases, corks. It's like, okay, let's just try to be all together to try to stand out, because
Yeah.
the volumes that people are doing here, and then the companies that supplies with bottles and cardbooks, and they are used to those big volumes, and it's like, can you do 1 million bottles? It's like in 20 years or 100 years maybe, but not today.
I started.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
How do you decide whether to use screw cap versus cork? Since you're, close to Portugal, and they make cork into everything.
¿Cómo te refieres entre el screw cap o el
Sí,
corcho?
bueno, pues quizá para el blanco, ahora os lo explicas, como es más de consumo rápido, sí que lo tengo para botar una botella, digamos, directamente. Y en el tinto, pues como necesitamos de oxigenación a 3 meses en barrica, pues...
So most of the times, I mean, cork, it's necessary for wines mainly that has age in oak. When you have a wine that it's not aging in oak, oxygen is more an enemy than a friend. So one of the more secure system will be to use or screw cap or what we call a technical cork, which are not natural. But they want a low oxygen to get into the wine. In the case of the Tempranillo, because it aged for 3 months in oak, we do use a cork. And for the Verdejo, actually, that was the first vintage we do a screw cap. And it was kind of a complicated thing because we didn't have a machine for that. So we have to rent one and they bring it. And I don't know if the new vintage is going to be a screw cup or we're going back to the cork. Let's see.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it was kind of a complicated thing and I'm not sure it was worth it.
Thank you.
Curious, Kathy, have you tasted the wines?
Yes,
And what do you think?
I love both of them. And I'm actually more of a red wine. I tell you, I love Tempranillo, delicious. But I also, in the summer, occasionally I'll do a Pinot Grigio, which of course reminds me of, but it's so delicious. It's creamy and it's lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I think at some point it's and I
I'm
think
eating some manchego cheese right now. No.
It's late for us. We already had dinner. It's almost 11 p.m. So
Lunch for me.
This is midnight.
yeah,
It's
well,
midnight.
it's almost midnight, but it's 11 hours because I think you already changed time, right? In the States, and we're doing that
Yes,
this Saturday.
back to my red. I love it.
But I wanted to say that there is a trend in wines where, and this is something we discuss a lot because when I start dating him and start explaining me all those things about wines, and I was in my opinion, it was like you're giving me the impression that I need to know a lot to enjoy a wine. And I don't want to have that feeling. I just want to enjoy a bottle of wine. It's like, why do I get that feeling when I'm drinking wine and not when I'm drinking beer? Nobody's questioning me about everything. So I just want to sit and enjoy a bottle of wine without me thinking if it's red fruit, black fruit, orange fruit. I don't care. I just want to sit and enjoy the bottle of wine, basically. And I think at some point I had I hope a good influence on him on those two wines. Like I just do want to enjoy, wines to share, wines where I don't have to be thinking, okay, I spend $150 in this bottle, so I better think what I'm drinking because I want to be sure that I'm understanding the whole bottle. I just want to open a bottle of wine. Today is a Tuesday. I just came back from work. I just want to open a bottle of wine and
Relax.
and relax. That's it, and enjoy, and be sure that I'm drinking something that is also healthy for my body because it doesn't have any chemical products. And next year, actually, for next vintage, we are also going to be certified vegan. We have always been working vegan, but now
Today is
we're
certified.
now we're going to be certified with the next vintage.
You should have told us about that earlier.
We only use a protein pea or a protein vegetal.
Yeah,
Something?
because between all the things you can do with the wine, you can use fish. You can maybe here you can help me fill out with the technical words in English for the fish tail and the pig protein you can use to produce a wine. And we're using green ingredients, so it's vegan.
And natural yeast for our fermentation. No added.
You just let them do what they know.
Well, Elena, Moise, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. Sheila, thanks for making this happen and putting this all
Thank you.
together. Jacqueline, thank you for being part of it as well. To everybody that joined us, it's good to see you all. Some of you I know. Hope to see you sooner than later. Sheila, I don't know if you want to add anything, but thanks again for putting this all together. And I look forward to meeting you someday, Elena and Moise.
Thank you
Thank
very
you for
much.
everyone.
Thank you guys.
Thank
so much.
you.
The fundraiser set is still, we're going to keep it available on our website for the future. So, support
Love and white.
Yannick's charity. It's, they're doing great things for people with disabilities. And you also get a chance to buy some really good organic
To mention the
artisanal
wine.
wine. So
Thank you. I would like this photo. It's
Thank
great.
you, everyone.
Guys,
And
thank
next
you.
time
Bye,
you're
everyone.
come
Thank
visit
you.
us.
Thank you so much.
thank
Enjoy.
you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Nice to meet you.